Except dudes, dudettes, whatever you want to be called. I don't know. I'm gonna go with dudes. I'm I don't normally do, obviously, I don't do a whole lot of commentary on my channel anymore. Never really to really begin with. I guess I started out with games, so I guess if you, that counts. But I mean, I don't talk about art things usually, and I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking about because it's something that I know a lot of people make, you know, videos about or talk about or whatever, and that is style biting or style stealing, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I want to go out and say that style stealing isn't a thing because stealing implies that you take it from someone, they no longer have it, you've taken it from them, they can no longer do it. And obviously, no one's going out there being a fucking supervillain, stealing people's powers, you know, so they can't have them anymore. Your artistic ability, gone. No, no one's out there doing that. And style biting, I feel, it more or less means copying. I think copying might be a more accurate term. And I'm not out here saying if you style bite or you copy, you're a bad person, because that's not what this is going to be about at all. I believe there are benefits to style biting or copying. I think I'll go with copying. When you copy someone or something, you can learn a lot from that thing or that person or that, just in general, how to draw. I think all kids start out copying, so it's not a bad thing. Like, it's even tracing has a purpose, it has a use. And so when you copy something, it does something very, especially when you're a kid, because usually most people do it when they're a kid, but even now, like after you're an adult, sorry, just my thumbs just popped. I don't know if you can hear that on the mic, hopefully not, but when you copy as a kid or an adult or whenever you first get into drawing, it's great because it does something that I think is very vital, and that is to help you, you know, get love for creating, like to draw, to paint, whatever. It puts in you the love for the act of creation, which is very vital. I think it's super important. Like, if you don't love drawing, if you don't love art, it can be very difficult for you. And I think that goes for anything, really. So, when you copy someone, you know, it's no different from when you're copying real life. You know, you copy what you see. So, it's very natural to copy someone else's artwork. And I think it's I don't know if I should say a fine line, but I think there are good examples, good things, and bad things that come with copying someone's style. And I use style here. But what it is their artistic fingerprint. Their... Yeah, no, I think artistic fingerprint is pretty good. And there, like I said, there's good and bad. When you're copying someone who's already famous, obviously you're not hurting them, really, because they've already made it to the top, so, and everyone already knows who they are. I think when it could hurt is when you take it, well, I say take, that's not correct. When you copy someone who's maybe not as well known, and obviously you must, you know, if you end up getting really popular and they don't, it's probably because you brought something to the table, your content or whatever. And that's fair. That's really fair to say that, you know, you brought something that they didn't have. But it's still really, it sucks for the other person because they feel robbed, they feel wronged because, you know, now they're getting, people think that they're copying you, and I don't know, it's a very personal thing. And the downside to maybe copying someone, especially when they're more well-known, bouncing back to, well, someone well-known, The only downside is that it's not you as an individual, I would say. I mean, your content would probably be different, but I don't know. I think it takes away something very personal away from the person. And like I said, it's okay to start out drawing like someone else. People do it all the time, and it can be really fun too to see how well people can draw. But there are limitations. Sometimes when you rely too heavily on basically studying how another person does something, if you want to do something or draw something that other person hasn't drawn, you have no reference, no library to fall back on. Not really. So you have to try and fill in the gaps there. And that is usually where people will grow and spread off and break away from the style that they are currently mimicking. And that's good, but some people never break away, and I don't know, it's a thing. To say that it doesn't exist entirely, I think is incorrect, and I think it's also a disservice when a person, hangs on that style for too long, because traditionally speaking, art schools, that's what you would learn to do, is you would learn to draw or paint exactly like the master you were under. And the downside to that is now throughout history, like down the line, a lot of those, what they have no way to confirm it, that what they think might be a student, that student gets no credit. It goes all to the master. There's some pieces done from the Rembrandt School of Painting, and they get attributed to Rembrandt himself, even though they suspect that it might be a student. They have no way to prove that, and that student's name is not recorded anywhere. So unfortunately, that was the cost of copying somebody else. Now no one's gonna find, at least I don't think they're gonna find digital artworks like way into the future and be like, this was, I don't know, Richard Horvat, not Richard Horvat, that's a voice actor, but like, oh my gosh, Yonan Vasquez, the Invader Zim guy, or Maxwell Adams, or I'm pulling a blank. But there's a lot of artists that, people get really into. Rebecca Sugar, they're not going to find this stuff like years, like hundreds of years later, somehow be able to read the digital format and be like, we have no proof that this was not Rebecca Sugar, but we're going to attribute it to Rebecca Sugar. No one's going to be doing that. But for me personally, I like to see individuals have their own artistic fingerprint, and what they bring to the table. Like, I think don't get me wrong, it's a great skill to be able to copy someone's art style. There's a lot of jobs that ask you to do that. Disney has a lot of artists who do that. Especially if you're going into animation, then you have to make it look all the same. Marvel, for a long time, you had to draw like they did. There's, How to Draw the Marvel Way. I actually have an old copy of that book, but even those artists who worked under Marvel and DC, each one had something that they brought to the table that made them unique or made them memorable. For, like, say, Jack Kirby, it was, I think one of the most identifiable things that I know of, that I've heard of, is, like, the Kirby Crackle, things like that. And a good example of copying something that somebody did prior, but the person who did it prior gets no attention, is is a good example of Spider-Man's web, the iconic web that he has now, that string. A lot of people attribute that to, oh gosh, I'm pulling a blank on his name. He created Spawn. Oh my gosh. Why am I pulling a blank? I can always remember Todd McFarlane. But he went on record saying that he actually wasn't the first to do that, but a guy prior to him, years ago, had done that, and the artists that came in after him to draw for Spider-Man comics went back to the weird, like, string and net style, and he liked the other style, and then people caught on, they really liked that, and so now it's everywhere, and most people attribute it to McFarlane, but he actually got it from a guy before him. So But no one's gonna be screaming, "You stole that! Shame! Boo! Boo!" No one's gonna be doing that, and I'm not going to be doing that. But it's more just like I guess just like a ramble of thoughts, and I believe that it has its benefits, but I also believe it has its downsides, and I think those downsides are not developing your own voice, your own artistic identity, and kind of relying and hanging off of one that already exists. And I've obviously been rambling like way too long, and I probably have tons of like more points I could make, and I know there's gonna be people who are like, I disagree with you, and you know, that's fine, you can. I encourage you to have your own ideas of how things are, and I just would like to get my ideas or my voice out there, and I'm not very good at expressing these things all the time, so hopefully you guys don't rip me apart. I hope I get like hundreds of videos on me in the artistic community here on YouTube saying about how wrong I am and all that. I'm very like nervous, but I kind of want to get better at expressing myself, so I guess I decided to start with the style biting, stealing, whatever. I guess I'll just go ahead and put here at the end of just style biting is just a more aggressive word for copying or mimicking or heavily referencing an already existing visual style. Stealing, you can't steal a style because that would require that you take it from the person and then they no longer have it and that you have it, which that's not an ability people have, and if it is, then they're a supervillain, and watch out. Alright, so hopefully soon I will have another topic to talk about. If you maybe want to hear my opinions on something, go ahead and leave a comment and I will try to get to it. Later, dudes.